Welcome back to the Daily Fantasy Flex podcast. This is Bryan. We just completed a podcast on the John Deere Classic, so thank you for listening to that one. If you just did, if you have not, it is in the podcast feed. We decided to split them up this week just because they both have good tournaments on DraftKings. Usually we do the PGA and the Euro event if you want to classify the Olympics. This week is the Euro event, but since there are good GPPs, good action on both, we decided to split them up and talk about them evenly. So we already posted the John Deere. Go listen to that if you haven't. But this is going to be solely about the Olympics. In the John Deere Classic, we talked about the Travelers and recap that. We talked about some things about last week. We're not going to do that in this podcast. If you want to listen to that, go back and do that. We're going to talk solely about the Olympics. And which is, I think, really, really interesting just because we don't really have a lot of data on this. So, Colin, I'll kick immediately to you on this because we usually start by going over course fit, and this is sort of just new ground for us because the Olympics is being played at it's called the Olympic Golf Course in Rio in Brazil, and it's made solely for the Olympics. So no one's played on it. No one knows anything about it. So I just want to spend some time. We'll do our questions and everything solely geared around this idea of, what do we do with course fit? And, just sort of how do we deal with the course in general since we don't have data?
Well, this is not totally unfamiliar ground because, with stuff like majors, like the PGA Championship and the U.S. Open, it goes to a new course. Sometimes we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel or kind of doing similar courses. You could maybe take that and kind of do a subjective angle about how this thing plays, except there's even less data on it because, this thing is being built for the Olympics. So this is this is about as unknown as we really get. I'm not too, I think people are actually missing the boat on what to worry about this week. I think I don't mind that there's no course history or course fit to go off of. I think the biggest thing is that it's a no-cut event. And I'm becoming increasingly convinced that they're just you approach no-cut events in a different way for sure. I just don't know enough exactly how, but I think that my sneaking suspicion, and this gets kind of get borne out in the data, is that just there's a lot less variance and just because everybody has true larger sample sizes, that results tend to regress towards their expected results way more in a no-cut event. And we've taken that line before. I think that's the easiest heuristic to guide your decision process for the Olympic stuff. Just put more weight in models and long-term results than you might otherwise.
So do you mean so we had talked about, and Pete had brought this stat up when Rory was in the major a couple of weeks ago, where he was first in total driving and pretty much last in the field in strokes gained putting. So just a super high variance thing where whatever you want to say, whether he was just unlucky or whether he just was on the wrong side of putting variance. So in a tournament where there's no cut and guys are guaranteed 4 rounds, are you willing? Is that what you're saying? A situation like that, Rory would have just worked himself out. So the higher end guys.
Oh yeah. There's a much higher chance that Rory just would have worked himself back up into a top 35 after that. 100%. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, Pete, what are your thoughts on the course? I mean, I'm sure you don't know too much about it because no one does, but, just how you're approaching the lack of knowledge, I guess.
Well, it's a par 71, and there are 4 par 5s and 5 par 3s. So par 4 scoring is not quite as important. I'm just going to chase the birdie makers. That's kind of my strategy going in, see what I think is the most underpriced based on adjusted round, and I'm just going all in on birdies and chasing guys like that. So, Bubba Watson's a guy that I'm thinking about right off the bat. There's a lot of potential. There's other guys in this tournament that definitely are more high variance. I think that's the approach I'm going to take, given the cut structure or the lack thereof, and just what we know or what we don't know about the course, I guess. So just again, it's more generic. There's not as many angles to take, and those angles I'm gonna play is go after the guys I think are the best values based on long-term adjusted round and chase birdies.
Fair enough. So one angle I think that could be interesting regarding the course, and Pete, I want to kick back to you on this because I think that you'll have some good analysis for us. I read an article on USA Today a little bit earlier today. It says the Olympic golf course will be home to a variety of species taking in golf's return to the Olympics. And it's talking about the course is populated by an assortment of fuzzy and creepy creatures, including boa constrictors, three-toed sloths, monkeys, and small crocodiles. Capybaras, a large rodent, are all around the course, and there's also a family of ground-nesting owls throughout the greenside bunkers. So Pete, what are your thoughts on the animal situation on the course, and what narratives are you taking into this week because of the boa constrictors and all the animals?
I can see why so many people are getting out of this, and you forgot to mention the mosquitoes, which are carrying that deadly Zika, or not deadly, but the dangerous Zika virus. So not a course I'd want to be out there on, which is very, it's intriguing and bizarre to think about, but I have no angle, unfortunately, or no. I wish I had a clever comment on who to take because they're used to the elements. But I think all these golfers have lived a pretty good life, and they're not dealing with a variety of animals on a daily basis at these golf courses. So.
Yeah, what's the closest analog here in the Florida swing? Sometimes you get a gator that chomps down on a ball. Who has the greatest gator wrangling experience? I see you pick the guys who have a Florida home because they're used to the elements trying to kill them on the golf course. So that's my yeah. Anytime that capybaras are featured prominently in a golf tournament, which is going to be never probably after this, I have nothing to add other than it's just a shameless plug for, this is a great week to revisit one of my favorite sites ever, capybaras that look like Rafael Nadal. I haven't ever seen that, but the resemblance is striking when it needs to be. So that's everybody's homework assignment. Go look that one up.
Interesting. Yeah, Pete, I think the sharp play this week is to, instead of stacking certain tee times based on weather, if you get some angle on the migration of these animals and figure out when they're going to be on what hole and stack accordingly, I think that's the sharp play this week.
Yeah, I'm going for driving accuracy as well, just to mitigate the risk of one of my players getting his leg bitten off. So I'm taking the accuracy angle as well.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Keeping your limbs, I think, is a positive in this tournament, and accuracy helps with that. Okay.
We haven't seen how does decapitation or amputation affect your play? I don't know. We tend to say that. Well, I know our line is we don't know how to deal with injuries. So if you lose a leg, I don't know how to deal with that. There's literally no way to say how they be golfing after. So I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen a study on that. So
any more data?
Yeah, we're working without a lot of data here, but we'll do the best we can. All right, so let's jump into the field here. We'll break down our players by our usual tiers, which will be, we'll start with the lowest tier. Is going to be 6-9 on DraftKings and lower. Then the middle tier will be 7K to 8-9, and then we'll do the higher end guys, which would be 9K and higher. Colin, we'll start with you on the lower tier since we started with Pete on the John Deere Classic. So guys 6-9 and under, who's popping out for you?
So the guy I'm happy that's at the top of the list, because we've kind of alluded him before, is Nicholas Colsaerts, the muscles from Brussels. Every time we do a Euro thing, he kind of has some love. He's kind of household name recognition around this podcast, but I think he's the best value around here by far. He is a distance guy. It remains to be seen how much that actually matters, the par 71, but there are enough par 5s here that I think it'd pay off just fine. I think of everybody in the sub 7K range. It's this is where having that Euro data really pays off, because so many of these guys have Euro results that are just that need to get priced in. The guys that are up there for me, it's a bunch of other Euro players. Brandon Stone and Fabrizio Zanotti are guys that I know have been popping in other Eurocash game models, so I'm happy to see them there. I think that hands down the best value by far is this at the very bottom of the list, Rupe Kako, who he's kind of a middling Euro Tour player. Where it's never really finished above 40th or whatever on the tour. But I think it's more than you can say about some of these other guys that are priced higher than him and just can't even compete on the Euro Tour. So just the fact that he's been on the Euro Tour for that long, that much of a mainstay on the tour and is priced at 5,600. If nothing else, like, yes, I will take them hands down. So Colsert, Stone, Zanotti, and Kako.
Love the Coserts call. I think that's sharp. Definitely going to look into the other guys you mentioned. One guy who's really high in my model is Sung Pan. You have him rating well at all?
Oh, yeah. Good old Chang Soo Pan. He's high in mine.
Sung Pan, man. He is just crushing my model. I have no idea why.
He's the Wesley Bryan of this tournament. He's just crushing these web.com. He's played in the digital ally with Wesley, got 11th.
Oh, yeah. I see a lot of made cuts and a lot of things in these donkey web.com tournaments. Utah champion.
I don't even know if they're like some of this is even like, yeah, I guess plenty of it is web.com, but yeah, that's just like
he's crushing.
I think the reason this is a kind of a good programming note. Probably the reason why he's popping so high is again like the Chang Sung Pan here is probably a little bit of an edge case where long-term adjusted round accounts for field strength as best as he can, but like it just breaks down when you have guys that just put up insane top 10 finishes at like second and third tier tournaments. So
right.
That's why he'll be in all of your models so high. It's just like the models kind of implicitly assume that, it's a normal tournament every week and it's optimized around your standards things. So sometimes you get these weird edge cases that pop up and just seem more outliery. I wouldn't give that a whole lot of weight there. So he just hasn't played against enough actual golfers for me to have a conclusive opinion on him.
Zanotti's also up there. I mean, it's the same guys. I can't add any good guys under this range.
Yeah, this is just pick your favorite. Yeah, like pick your favorite Euro bargain bins. I think Alex Sejka is probably going to get a lot of ownership just because of name recognition. But I wouldn't mind fading him in this range. Actually, he's a little bit overpriced.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Colin, on some of these web.com tour guys who are just crushing in these lower tour events. But a guy who has a good recent good recent adjusted round score. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ricardo Gueva, and he's a guy who has been playing well on the European tour in the last several events. So I mean, does that give you a little more interest at all? Since it's Europe.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's right up there. I think he's there's a decent floor there. Yeah, it's a little bit low volume for my liking, but no less than Rupe right above him. And you're just not going to get enough high volume guys at this at this level anyway. The only guy that has a decent sample, I think, at this point is probably someone like Sejka. So and then maybe Fabian Gomez. But yeah, I could agree with that. Just from I've heard of him. We've talked about on Euro Tour podcast. And yeah, I could buy that.
Okay, sounds great. We will move up to the next tier, which is going to be 7K to 8-9. And Pete, you are up for this one.
Okay, so this range, there's actually a couple guys who aren't awful. Gregory Bordy's rating somewhat well, though I'll have to look into more. There are some things that make me a little bit nervous, but I've been very consistent, not missing a lot of cuts outside of the Scottish. So I think he's intriguing at 7K. I think that's good value, better than a lot of the guys under 6'9". I think that Vegas has been playing better, so if you want to buy that, certainly could. Keltson's nice. I think he's a good play. My favorite players are right above 9K, but I think those are two guys. Danny Lee is another guy who I think is probably better than what his price is. So it'll be a mixture of those guys. Chidi, I think people might get on, but I probably won't have as much of him. Thomas Peters as well, I guess, is popping pretty high, who I think Colin might like as well. Colin, you like Peters and anyone else out of that range or guys that you disagree with?
Yeah, all of those I agree with completely. I think that the two that you missed I'm still high on. One who I almost never recommend, and it'll still be maybe tournament only, but I guess in a no-cut maybe it doesn't matter as much, is David Lingmerth. I think he'll be decently popular just because he tends to get a lot of he tends to fly with the boomer bust crowd pretty well. And then I think Birdie is probably the best pound-per-pound value in this range. Coming in second and not that far behind is Juste Lutine, who like always seems every time that he's in a Euro field, I mean, he seems to be a pretty decently heavy favorite. His only missed cuts here are at decent quality like fields in the Scottish Open and the British Open this year, but it was followed up by a 33rd to PGA. So like I think there's still enough like solid Euro results in here that he's a known quantity. I think Vegas, for what it's worth, is probably the tops overall in my model. But again, I also think he'll be massively popular just because like everybody's seen, especially after the win, and he's just been on a tear lately. So I think a lot of people will be on a bandwagon.
Yep.
A guy that, as someone who plays more tournaments than cash game, a guy who stands out to me, not really as an interesting play, but just an interesting player in general, is Bernd Wiesberger. He's at 7-8, and he's a guy, Colin, I'm just curious what you do with data like this. He either is like pretty much in the last several months, he's either a top 10 guy or he just like shoots a million over par. Like there's really no in between for him. So what are your thoughts on him? Does long-term just around or even recent, does that sort of just work itself out, or do the extremes sort of provide some difficulty in analyzing his data?
No, I think you can qualify someone as boom or bust, and they can have the same averages as a steady cut maker, and that's why like range of outcomes is important. I think you hit it on the head with Wiesberger, where if what his American counterpart, something like Tony Finau, where he's also boom or bust, and what do you do with that? You play him in tournaments, not cash games. So I don't think I would overthink that one. And yeah, I think the characterization still holds true for this week.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, I'll kick it right back to you, Colin, for the top tier. These are going to be guys that are 9K or higher, and I think that they're some of our favorite studs. We have Agria, who I think we should just sponsor on this podcast by now. But you're curious on your thoughts. I think there's a lot of interesting guys in the 9K and up range.
So normally Grillo would be I think he's always our favorite play this week and would absolutely qualify this week. Except the fun narrative on his play in his case is where in the world are Emiliano Grillo's golf clubs, because they have been lost by his airline, and I think he is questionable to even play the Olympics right now. So again, I think we had this case with none other than JB Holmes, my favorite, around I think it was the British Open. Are his clubs going to get there? I struggle with figuring out how to price that in. Is it too much of a risk? I don't know. Hopefully he'll get it resolved before Wednesday night. But assuming he finds his golf clubs, probably my favorite pound for pound in this range. I think Rafa Cabrera-Bello is probably the next best value around here. I think he's also probably going to be pretty popular given the household name recognition. And then the other guys, I think Stenson is probably he is just above the rest of this field by a country mile in terms of ability. Whether or not that translates into, are the Olympics different? Is it a good course fit for him? Or is he going to be motivated? I think you've said before, if you want to take the motivation angle, he probably cares most about the Olympics than anybody else in this top tier. I feel and he's rating high anyway. So if I'm going to lean anyone in this tier, it's probably from a combination of ability and narrative. It's probably going to be Stenson, especially if Grillo doesn't find his clubs. So so how are you treating the top guys in terms of who cares the most here and how it affects your process?
Well, breaking news, Grillo just tweeted out 25 minutes ago, so while we're recording these, that he found his clubs, and it's absolutely glorious.
Yes! I'm raising myself on the Argentinian flag for this tournament. It's going to be great.
He said, I'm never letting you go again until next flight. He's literally laying on his clubs, just hugging them, so happy. So
Grillo is the best, man.
I'm in. Grillo's a lock. I'm going all in. That's my boy. I think he's so good. I love Stenson. I think Stenson's clearly the favorite. Playing the best golf of anyone in this field. Definitely the highest caliber golfer in a tier of his own. So don't mind paying 12.4 for him. We talked about Zach Johnson at 13K. That's even more expensive than what Stenson is relative to this field, and I think he's the top guy. The two guys in the highest of my model, which makes me so happy, are Grillo and Stenson. So
such a good model.
Yeah. Such a good thing. Bubba Watson, I like in this tier as well. Just I think he's capable of making a lot of birdies going after these par fives. Cabrera-Bello still rating high at 9.2 for me. I think he's a fine play too. But yeah, it's a lot of the same guys that we talk about. But yeah, if I'm paying anywhere in cash, it's Grio and Stenson.
One angle, though, I don't think we talked about, only because I have World Cup on the brain since, it was Brazil last time. And home continent advantage definitely matters for soccer. And I'm wondering how much of a corollary applies to, say, golf. Like, is there a comfort level of being in South America that you think Rio has that just no one else does? How much of a weight would you give it? Because he's the only South American in this tier, right? Yeah. So I don't know how much of it. We're gonna pick Grio anyway, but just like as a kind of a fun hypothetical, how much do you give home continent advantage? Because there's only one Brazilian here, and I've never heard of him.
We're going Grio. That's just the reality.
Yeah, that's just food for thought. That's all.
Yeah, interesting food for thought, but should be a lot of fun. There is the $1 million tournament DraftKings. Looking at it a little bit more, I do think that they're expecting more on the Olympics. So. Not a huge fan of the no-cut events, but definitely going to roster up the birdie makers and Grio and Stenson. We've ride and died with those guys all year. It's not going to change for the Olympics.
Nope, not at all.
So, Pete, the U.S. guys have been tweeting out pictures of them going to dinner together and excited about the Olympics. Okay, the people who are listening can't see you. Just automatically shake your head. If you had to sort of just rank these American golfers, I know you don't like them as much as these other guys, but who do you like of those guys the best?
I'm going Bubba out of the group. I mean, Kuchar is one of my cash game favorites, but Kuchar, you're just playing him every week because he never misses a cut for you, which is great. But in this spot, not as enticing, and for a little bit more, I'll take some more variance with.
Is that
with
because
Bubba.
there's no cut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No cut is reasonable.
Yeah, I think he loses value there because like slow and steady doesn't matter as much in no cut. Yeah.
Right, and same with Patrick Reed I like, but again, he's more expensive than Bubba. I'm on Bubba in this range out of those guys. I think that's definitely the place to go. Ricky will garner some attention. Maybe he does well. He's been down there longer, so if you want to play an angle, he's been at the event the longest. I can see that, but that's really the gist of it for me.
So this is probably a very, very dumb question, Ken. I'm not going to ask you, are you going to have any country allegiance in rostering these guys? And I'm guessing that no one else that is going to make lineups will, but do you think there's anything to that at all? Maybe that people –
Maybe we'll stack the Americans. I'm not going to do it. So fade the Americans in tournaments might be smart.
Yeah, I don't know if people just want to root for those guys because it's the Olympics and they have American pride and they would do that. That probably isn't a thing, but
it definitely could be.
No, I think that's a perfectly legit question. Like, I'd agree with all of that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts?
All right. Instead of picking winners, let's pick countries for medal count. Or
No, Colin. Who
not
else?
USA division. The field's too stacked.
You want to pick gold, silver, or bronze?
No. Okay, just gold medal. Who wins the gold? Which country wins the gold medal?
That's who wins. I'll take Sweden right off the bat. You guys can go with whatever you want.
Okay, that's fine. Fine. Then I'll take Argentina.
Yeah, just like we're taking Grio and Stenson.
Continent advantage. I'm just like, actually, I'll switch it only because I want secret multi-golfer equity. I'll take England.
Okay, that's smart. Sharp. Well, nice. Like it.
And Justin Rose.
I know. That's definitely the higher equity play. Although I just went straight for the gusto with Sweden.
So if I take Spain, that means I get both Sergio and Rafa Cabrera Bello, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Sharp play. Sharp.
Okay. I'll go Spain.
All right. Gold only counts. That's it.
Okay.
But remember, Pete, you also get Lingworth too for Sweden. Don't forget.
Oh, I forgot about Lingworth. That's nice. It's really nice. It's sneaky.
Yeah, no, you're in a great spot there for sure.
Yeah, most equity. I got the winner right there.
It's top heavy for sure, but I don't know. I want more horses.
I got the Iceman Stenson as just the GOAT, so I'm money.
It is interesting, these having Olympic golf is such a high variance sport, and if you look at the betting odds for a lot of these other sports, like swimming, for example, you have just massive favorites. So it's interesting to see a sport like golf where it's just so high variance, where the favorite, even though Stenson is a sizable favorite, is nowhere near what Katie Ledecky was in her world crushing destruction of everything last night.
That's clearly like if you're like an under-medaling country and you want to do Moneyball your way to a medal count, put him in the golf event. Like that's just like, see if you can bank a tournament or something. I think that's your best chance of success. Maybe Anirban Lahiri comes through in the clutch and India like finally ends the drought that they've had in forever.
That's true. Are you guys disappointed at all in our guys, the DJ, for not being there?
No, screw that. I wouldn't show up. I wouldn't have shown up down there.
Yeah, I agree. That's just like there's nothing like maybe if it were something like Ryder Cup-ish and it's different than any other week tournament and there's something uniquely compelling about the Olympics, I'm like, okay, you go for the sake of novelty or like but like what was my other fun story from the lead up this week? Matt Kuchar's playing in the event and he didn't even know it was an individual event the week before. So it's just like there's
no money, there's no incentive, there's no history.
And it's just like, I think for these guys, like the Ryder Cup probably scratches the patriotic itch more than the Olympics ever will, just because I guess the first year they've done this, there's not a baked-in like partisan crowd.
They're not a team. It's like they are like U.S. competitors together.
Yeah. And what did Roy say? He said, "I'm in it for majors, not for my country," or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like, it's why I wish they'd do something different with tennis as well. Like, make it some sort of more country or team play-oriented event type of thing, like to do with the Davis Cup. Otherwise, just having a standard single elimination, just like it's like every other week in tennis. Like, it's the Olympics. Make it interesting.
I like it. Okay, we will end it there. Thanks for listening, everyone. Quick note: the lock for rosters is at midnight on Thursday. Usually it's early Thursday morning sometime. The John Deere Classic locks at 6 a.m., which is a more normal time. But since this is in Brazil, it's a different lock. It's 12 a.m., which is just midnight Thursday. So make sure Wednesday when you're finishing up your lineups to get those in before you go to bed. Or if you're on the West Coast, definitely get them in before 9 p.m. So definitely good luck. Thanks for listening. Again, we have a separate podcast for the John Deere. Go listen to that. We have multiple articles coming out. Pete's going to do 2 different model previews for both tournaments. So we'll definitely keep you guys rolling throughout the week and provide you with all the good analysis you'll need to make rosters for both. So good luck, and we'll talk to you guys next week.